thank you so much for giving me this opportunity and for the kind introduction. My name is Sue Fassler. I am the Sustainable Facilities Manager at the SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry in Syracuse, New York. Next slide, please. So as the Sustainable Facilities Manager, I manage or advocate for, as I like to say, 31 employees over a few divisions. So I oversee custodial, grounds, mailroom, stockroom, shipping and receiving, and our fleet garage. But of course, the most exciting aspect of this to me is my involvement with our Path to Zero and Low Waste program. And I'm a very active member of our college sustainability team. And I'm currently the temporary acting part-time project director for the New York State Center for Sustainable Materials Management. Little plug, this is a newly created center from a rather large DEC grant. We will be hiring a full-time project director. So if anyone's interested in helping the state of New York become the lowest resource consumptive in the state and helping move the state towards a zero waste future, please keep checking the ESF HR page. It should be on there in the next few weeks. So next slide, please. So I will not spend too much time here. The data is rather dated, but I still think it's very relevant. So whenever we hear conversations in the public sphere, politicians, especially, we hear about the need, rightfully so, to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. But it oftentimes focuses on things like energy, buildings, and transportation. And I love this graphic because it shows in 2009, 42% of our greenhouse gas emissions were consumption-based. So this is food consumption and goods consumption. So we really can't have a robust and holistic discussion about mitigating our climate change impact without talking about how we consume, produce, use, and manage our valuable materials. Next slide, please. I think there's 2 more clicks. Some little things will come up on the side. So just to ground us in the presentation today, a lot of folks on this call may be familiar with materials management and zero waste hierarchies. But in case not, so we typically have focused on the reduce, reuse, recycle, chasing arrows model, which sometimes can equate in equal significance to each of the 3 words. But they're really, materials management wants us to think about this as a hierarchy. So the first line level of thinking should be reduction, refusing to use something, redesigning. So we want to stay away from single-use products as much as possible. So I myself, before I really got into the idea of source reduction, thought, it's okay, I can recycle it. It's fine to use this, it's compostable, but that's a midline hierarchy solution. And while those are better than sending materials to landfills or incinerators, the best bet is to try to reduce what we are disposing of right from the source. So next slide, please. So ESF is a rather small science-based institution. We only have 9 buildings on campus, so it's a really great case study. And I say, if we can make change quickly, or if there's any place to make change quickly, it's at ESF, because we are small, we are rather nimble, and everyone who comes here for science and for environmentalism. So we do have kind of a pre-selected group of people who really do care deeply and are pulling towards the same direction. So our zero waste goals are to achieve a 90% diversion from landfill and incineration by 2025. And next slide, please. We also wanted to create a secondary metric, because what we really want to be able to measure is this source reduction. How much are we able to reduce the materials that we're throwing into our trash dumpster? So the goal that I care more about, because the other metric can be skewed, that's a topic for a different day, is this: we want to achieve a 90% reduction in our trash weight from a 2018-19 baseline level. So next slide, please. So the Green New York report has been so helpful. I've been at ESF in a professional capacity for about 1.5 years. I'm a former student, both undergrad and grad, but the Green New York report is one of the first things that I got to help put together when I started here, and seeing this data in one place has really been great for our comparison. So big plug, and thank you for that. So our baseline, 2018 to 2019, 66% of what we were producing was being landfilled, 23% was being recycled, and 11% was being composted. Next slide, please. So that equates to a diversion rate of 34%. Which is on par with the U.S. national average. And that was shocking to me as a former student and employee, and it was really disheartening to a lot of the members of our campus community, because we are here because we care for the environment. Why are we so average? Next slide, please. Got a bit ahead of myself. So the national average is 35%, so we were actually 1 point below being average. Next, please. So what did we do about this? We did a comprehensive bin audit, and I have a few slides to kind of show what that looked like. We walked through, 3 of us, a student, a member of student affairs, and myself, took field trips every Friday, pretty much all summer, to every building on campus, and we did a really comprehensive mapping system where we counted and categorized and took pictures and measured every single bin on campus. We wanted to understand why were we average. And the results showed, which I'll get into in a few slides, that we had a real mishmash of bins, which, especially after attending this year's AC conference and some of the presentations there, I realized that's not unique to ESF. A lot of institutions, even with the best of intentions, really don't have any type of consistency in their signage or their bin placement or their bin shape and function on campus. So we successfully lobbied our campus leadership to replace every single hallway bin on campus, and we formalized a campus-wide composting program. So we now have a trash, recycling, and compost bin on every floor of every building because we want to make it as easy as possible for people to properly divert their materials. And my personal favorite is we replaced every single traditional 10-gallon office trash bin with a 1.15 gallon, about as big as my head, linerless mini bin. So right off the bat, this saved us tens of thousands of plastic bags a year, but even more importantly, we changed our custodial staff's pickup schedule. So now we only pick up once per week from offices. So if people need more service than that, if they're producing too much trash, they have to pick it up themselves, bring it to the hallway, and the custodial staff does not wash this. So if you put anything compostable in here, you either have to wash it yourself or it might get a little bit stinky. So that's a nice way we've kind of been driving people to properly compost materials on campus. And we also switched to a different hauler for trash and recycling. It was really important for us to be able to get monthly trash and recycling weights so we can better track our program. So next slide, please. And this is an example of one of the bin audit sheets. So we got floor plans for every building, and you can see my minuscule, tiny, I can't write large, I don't know why, my tiny little handwriting, and we put bins in every single building with a descriptor. And then next slide, please. We took images and we used our iPhone, the measure tool, and then classified and categorized it based upon what number it was in what building. So you'll see a Baker 1, a Baker 13, a Baker 17, and so on. And that just shows the different types of bins that were being used on campus. And one more click. So the results. In our biggest building on campus, we had 28 different types of trash and recycling bins. Nothing was labeled. In our newest building, the Gateway Center, which I think was completed, I'm going to say 6 or 7 years ago, there were still 18 different types of trash and recycling bins alone. Bins tended to walk away. They were never really used for the proper purpose. So we thought, aha, we're onto something here. We found the reason why we are average. Next, please. So we wanted to balance cost effectiveness with functionality. So on the first floor of all of our buildings, we have the Spectrum series of bins. It's the one the semicircle, so you have, I guess, the upper right there. They're metal. They look a little bit nicer. And then in our upper floors, we have the Rubbermaid Slim Jims with the same type of color scheme. Then you see the little mini bin, almost to scale. And then we also have, so we wanted to make sure we were right-sizing our bins too. So the locations on campus that don't generate a lot of compostable material, we would use the smaller, it's called a Billy box, down in the lower right-hand corner and pair that with a full-size trash and recycling Slim Jim. So we really tried to keep, this is all you'll see on campus now. We only have 4 different bin types. So next slide, please. So I had the fun job of distributing the 535 mini bins around campus to every office. It was a great way for me to get to know people as I was a new staff member, and it was also a really great way to explain why we were doing this, because whenever you're asking someone to make a change, they're inherently going to be confused, maybe have a little bit of pushback, especially something that might make someone manage their materials on campus when they never had to before. So every time I went to talk to someone, I would kind of go through this blurb, this spiel that I memorized, and if someone wasn't there, I printed this off, I took their other trash bin, and I left this blurb with the mini bin. And it's really important that I left my contact information, so I would get a lot of calls like, what the heck, I want my bin back. But after I kind of talked through people, they did understand. So next slide, please. And oh wait, the one picture you can see one of our funnier staff members in student affairs took it so seriously one day he strapped his mini bin to some type of harness. Next slide, please. We also created consistent signage. We are very lucky in that our Trailhead Cafe on campus was already using a lot of compostable material, but it didn't matter when it was being thrown in the trash. So now we are properly able to both collect and manage our compostable materials. So we made really easy to understand, clearly to understand signage, and these are the actual items that people buy in the cafe. So we didn't use generic stock images. We used exactly what people would be purchasing. Next, please. And on every bin in the hallway, you will see trash, recycling, compost laid out with icons and very short words. Next, please. And then we do have a hanging mobile display by the cafe. We're thinking of ways to make it a little easier to see from a distance, but when you're standing there, you can really see this nice kind of cascading effect of what belongs in each bin. Next, please. So the results that we've seen in the 2019 to 2020, so we just missed COVID skewering our data by the skin of our teeth. So that was very lucky. We have 1 full year of valid data. So the results are, since we overhauled and added compost in these new bins, we have seen a 46% increase in recycling by weight, a 34% decrease in trash by weight, and oddly enough, a 33% decrease in compost by weight. And I think it's really important to quickly touch on that decrease. We found out that we were overestimating the volume to weight conversion of the yard debris that we were composting ourselves. So this isn't a fact I want to try to cherry pick and hide. I want people on campus to be able to trust that our data is valid. And if we say we made a mistake, we're going to say we made a mistake. So I think in the future, we will definitely see that number go up, but we've kind of recalibrated in this first year of our program. Next, please. And so our diversion rate has increased to by 14%. Next slide, please. And it lands us at 48% diversion. So we're more than halfway to our goal of 90%, but we kind of got that low-hanging fruit. So what do we have planned next? Next slide. So our compost volume has steadily increased throughout the last year. We were able to drop our trash collection from 5 days a week to 3 days a week. That was an immense cost savings that we were able to reinvest into increasing our compost service. And we also switched compost haulers. Through networking at conferences, I realized that there was a more cost-efficient hauler, so we just made that switch about 2 months ago. And I'm very happy to report this program was not cut in any way due to COVID, because gathering materials on campus, trash, recycling, compost, is health and safety. And we already made the investment into new bin infrastructure, and it was too big to roll back the program now. So next slide. So plan for the future, we were lucky enough to be awarded a NYSAR 3 College Council grant. And with that, we bought 236 reusable menstrual cups. So this is a creative way. We partnered with our Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Facilities Department, and Sustainability. And so we're pairing financial accessibility, because we're giving these away to students, faculty, and staff for free, with sustainability, and we're also serving to destigmatize topics on campus that are otherwise kind of taboo to talk about. So we worked with some student interns to come up with the messaging this summer, and we're building up people and not trash piles. So it's been a really fun program. Within the first week, I had already distributed 100 of these. It was way more popular than I thought it would be at first. We are also working on greening our events, and we recently launched our Break Free from Plastics work group. So now we're systematically identifying single-use, non-essential plastics on campus, and we'll be working on reducing those at the source or properly managing those materials. So things like thin film plastic bags that are currently being trashed, until we can find a way to reduce them at the source, we want to set up a separate recycling stream to gather those. And we want to, as I mentioned, reduce what we bring on campus at the source. So my next and final slide, please. If you have any questions, I know we're probably a little short on time today. I'm happy to answer anything here, but please do feel free to email me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Sue. That was fantastic. And your results there are really heartening, that if we can tackle this low-hanging fruit, we can make a huge difference. And I think that really proves it out in the numbers there. So the first question we've got here is, when you switched to the new bin structure where you weren't cleaning out everybody's bins every day, did you have any pushback from custodial staff? I know a couple agencies have talked to us and mentioned that there were kind of union contract issues and other things based on the amount of, you're reducing workload. Did anything like that come up?
So that's a great question. And I think part of the beauty of where my position is situated in our organization, and I could talk about this forever, but I'll keep it short, is that I didn't have to ask another manager for permission to work with their staff or train their staff because custodial reported to me. So from the beginning, right when we knew we were doing this, they were involved day one. They helped us pick out the compostable bags. We tested 3 or 4 different types. They told us we want a top load bin. We do not want to mess with anything that hooks the bag in. So from the start, they helped us build this program from the ground up. They helped create the educational signage and tell us what they think needs to be on there. And we did an analysis, and on average, each custodial staff member was saving 7 hours a week from not having to go office to office. So we essentially gained another full-time employee every week. And that allowed the custodial staff to reallocate some of their time. Now we're very glad we did this with COVID because they have such an increased workload on cleaning and disinfecting. And I'm also lucky enough that our CSEA union president is a janitor, and we have an absolutely phenomenal working relationship. So right from the start, we cued them in from the genesis of the program, and that made all the difference.
That is awesome. And another question that came in here, what was the cost investment for the new bin infrastructure?
So you see me looking to the side here because I'm trying to find that data, but it's hard quickly. I can send that out. I want to say off the top of my head it might have been $18,000, and that includes some exterior bins as well. I don't think I'm too far off there, but I can email you that if you want, and you feel free to share. I can lay out the cost of every single bin type. Keeping in mind, I mean, that's a good thing about being a small campus is we could do this in one fell swoop. I know that other schools are piloting different buildings in phases.
Mm-hmm. And one comment here involving TerraCycle. Have you used them at all for some of your kind of harder to recycle items?
Yep, we had our first Breakthrough from Plastics work group meeting last week, and the 2 big things that came up were thin film plastic bags and gloves. And I know that TerraCycle manages gloves, so I see that as being the first test. So we don't have any TerraCycle boxes on campus so far, so I think we will though.
And another quick question here, have you done anything with writing utensils yet, like pens and pencils?
We have not, but I am open to any ideas. That sounds intriguing.
Okay, we'll put you in touch with SUNY Oswego. They actually have a writing utensil program that's been really successful.
Great.
And any final thoughts for folks?
No, just if anyone wants to talk about this is my absolute favorite topic, so please feel free to reach out. And it's been a lot of fun, and it's brought our operations staff together. So it's really been a very positive experience.
Awesome. Thank you very much, and thank you for all the work you've done on this. I think you've taken a leadership role on this and for sharing everything. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.